Have you ever met a woman whose presence stayed with you long after she left the room, not because she was perfect, but because she was so undeniably real? Maybe she wasn't the loudest or the most polished, but there was something about her, a quiet strength, a depth that made her impossible to forget, a depth that left you wondering how she became so magnetic, so unforgettable. I've seen this kind of woman so many times in my years working with folks in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, when we start craving connections that feel genuine, that go beyond the surface, connections that inspire us to be more of who we truly are. I've spent decades studying the teachings of Carl Jung, the brilliant mind behind analytical psychology, and I can tell you this: what makes a woman truly unforgettable isn't perfection, it's authenticity. A courage to be herself in a world obsessed with filters and facades, a world that often tells us to hide our true selves to fit in. Jung believed that real magnetism comes from embracing who you truly are, shadows and all, and letting that truth shine without apology, especially as we age, when living authentically becomes a powerful act of freedom, a way to reclaim the parts of ourselves we've hidden for far too long. In this video, we'll explore 7 paradoxical traits that make a woman unforgettable, traits inspired by Jung's wisdom, traits that can help you become a presence that leaves a lasting mark, not by trying to be someone else, but by unleashing who you've always been beneath the mask society has placed on you. Masks that might have kept you safe, but also kept you small. Let's start with the first trait, the power of authenticity. The courage to be unapologetically real. A trait that's so rare in a world where we're often taught to be what others expect, to dim our light, to soften our edges, to fit into roles that don't reflect who we truly are. I've found that when a woman dares to show her true self, flaws and all, she becomes a magnet, her energy drawing others in because it's so refreshing, so honest, so alive, like a breath of fresh air in a room full of pretense. Jung taught that when we stop molding ourselves to fit others' expectations, when we let go of the need to be liked by everyone, we project a confidence that's impossible to ignore. A confidence that doesn't come from arrogance, but from a deep peace with who we are. A peace that says, I am enough, just as I am, with all my imperfections, all my contradictions, all my beautiful humanity. This authenticity isn't about being rigid. It's about evolving from a genuine place, growing without losing your essence. And that's what makes a woman truly unforgettable. She's not trying to be perfect. She's simply being herself. And that truth resonates in a way that nothing else can. It touches something deep in others, reminding them of what it means to be real, to be free, to be fully alive in a world that often feels so artificial. Authenticity sets the foundation for a woman who leaves a lasting mark because it allows her to be seen as she truly is, a beacon of truth in a world of facades. But there's another trait that builds on this, one that deepens her presence even further. Confidence that comes from within, a quiet certainty that doesn't depend on external approval, a confidence that radiates from knowing her own worth. I've seen this in so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Women who've lived long enough to know what truly matters, who've walked through enough of life's challenges to understand that real confidence isn't about being the loudest in the room or seeking validation from others. It's about an inner knowing, a deep-rooted belief in their own value that shines through in every step they take, every word they speak. Carl Jung taught that everything we deny about ourselves ends up dominating us from the shadows. But when we embrace our whole self, light and dark, we free ourselves from the need for others to define us. And that freedom is magnetic. It's what makes a woman unforgettable. Because she's not looking for someone else to tell her she's enough. She already knows it, and that knowing changes everything. I've found that this kind of confidence isn't loud or showy. It's subtle, a silent strength that others feel without her having to say a word, It's in the way she carries herself with a grace that comes from self-acceptance, the way she speaks with intention, choosing words that reflect her truth, the way she listens with presence, making others feel truly heard, because she's not trying to prove anything. She's simply being. And that authenticity, paired with inner confidence, creates a presence that's impossible to ignore, a presence that feels like a warm light in a world often filled with cold pretense. Jung spoke of the individuation process, the journey of becoming your true self. And I've seen how women who walk this path stop comparing themselves to others. They don't need to. They've found their own center, their own truth. And that self-assurance becomes a beacon drawing others in. Not because she demands attention, but because her energy is so grounded, so real, that it naturally inspires those around her to seek the same kind of freedom within themselves. A freedom that says, I am whole, just as I am. A freedom that makes her a woman no one wants to lose. A woman whose confidence isn't borrowed, but built from the inside out. A woman who shows others what it means to stand tall in their own truth. This inner confidence, rooted in authenticity, allows an unforgettable woman to embody another trait that sets her apart. She embraces her shadow, the hidden parts of herself, and uses them as a source of growth, becoming a living example of transformation, a woman who's not afraid to evolve into her fullest self. I've seen this in so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, women who've spent years trying to fit into society's expectations, hiding their flaws, suppressing their contradictions, presenting a polished version of themselves that's more acceptable, more likable. But Jung taught us that true power comes from integrating our shadow, the parts of us we fear, the parts we deny, like our insecurities, our anger, our deepest desires. Because when we reject these aspects, they control us from the unconscious, shaping our choices in ways we don't even realize. But when we face them, we liberate ourselves. We become whole. I've found that an unforgettable woman doesn't shy away from her shadow. She looks at it with courage. She acknowledges her wounds, her imperfections, and instead of hiding them, she transforms them into strengths, into wisdom, into a deeper understanding of herself. Asking the hard questions. Why do I feel this way? What am I afraid of? What have I been hiding from myself? This isn't about being flawless. It's about being fearless in your self-discovery. It's about peeling back the layers society has placed on you, the layers that tell you to be less, to feel less, to dream less, and finding the beauty in your complexity, the strength in your vulnerability, the power in your contradictions. Jung called this the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole by accepting all parts of who we are. And I've seen how women who walk this path become radiant, their presence carrying a depth that others can feel, a depth that comes from having walked through their own darkness and emerged stronger, wiser, more whole, because they've learned to love every part of themselves, even the parts they were once ashamed of, even the parts they were told to hide. And that self-acceptance, that courage to grow without losing their essence, makes them unforgettable. A woman who's not afraid to evolve, who's not afraid to be fully human, who shows others that true beauty lies in the depth of our authenticity, not the perfection of our masks. A woman who inspires us to look at our own shadows, to embrace our own journeys, find the strength that comes from being whole. Embracing her shadow and growing through it, an unforgettable woman naturally develops another trait that deepens her impact. She loves from a place of freedom, not lack, offering a kind of connection that's rare, transformative, and deeply felt. I've seen this in so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Women who've lived long enough to understand what love truly means, who've walked through enough relationships to know the difference between love that clings and love that sets you free. And they've learned that real love isn't about needing someone to fill a void. It's about sharing from a place of wholeness, a place of inner fullness that doesn't depend on anyone else, a place that, and I choose to share my light with you. Carl Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies within us all. And I've found that a woman who integrates these forces feels complete within herself. She doesn't seek others to give her value because she already knows her worth. She doesn't beg for love because she's already cultivated it within. And that self-love becomes the foundation of how she connects with others, making her presence magnetic, unforgettable, because she's not trying to take, she's giving from a place of abundance, from a place of joy, from a place of freedom. I've seen how this kind of woman loves with a rare kind of grace. She doesn't impose herself, she doesn't demand, she doesn't cling to those who don't want to stay, because her love isn't rooted in fear or neediness. It's rooted in trust, in knowing that she's enough with or without anyone else. And that certainty allows her to love deeply, passionately, without losing herself in the process. She feels with intensity, she loves with dedication, but she does so from a place of choice, not desperation. And that's what makes her so captivating. Her love is a gift, not a plea. A connection that feels genuine, not forced. A connection that feels like a warm embrace, not a suffocating grip. I've found that when a woman loves from this place of freedom, she becomes a mirror for others, showing them what it means to love without conditions, to be present without losing oneself, to give without expecting anything in return. And that kind of love, that kind of presence, leaves a mark that others can't help but remember, a mark that makes her a woman no one wants to lose, because she's shown them a love that's as rare as it is real. A love that inspires them to find the same freedom within themselves, to love from a place of wholeness, not lack, to love in a way that sets both hearts free. When a woman loves from freedom, not lack, she naturally embodies another trait that makes her presence so powerful, a deep presence that creates connections beyond the surface, touching others in ways that linger long after she's gone, leaving an imprint on their hearts and souls. I've worked with so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, and I've seen how rare it is to find someone who truly knows how to be present, especially in a world full of distractions, where shallow interactions often take the place of real connection, where people are more focused on their phones than the person sitting across from them. But an unforgettable woman changes that. She brings a depth to every moment, a depth that others can feel without her saying a word, a depth that makes you feel seen in a way you might not have felt in years. Carl Jung taught that true relationships aren't between masks, but between souls. And I've found that a woman who lives authentically, who knows herself deeply, has a presence that transcends the superficial. She doesn't just talk to fill the silence, she speaks with meaning, choosing words that come from her heart. She listens with intention, giving you her full attention, making you feel heard in a way that's rare and profound. She looks into your eyes with a warmth that says, "I see you, all of you." And in that moment, you feel truly understood, truly valued, truly connected. I've seen how this kind of woman can share a quiet moment without it feeling awkward. She's comfortable with silence because she's at peace with herself, and that peace creates a space where others feel safe to be themselves, to share their own truths, to let down their own masks, because her presence isn't demanding. It doesn't drain you. Instead, it lifts you up. It inspires you because she's not trying to impress. She's simply being, and that authenticity, that depth, makes every interaction with her feel like a gift, a moment of genuine connection in a world where so many people are too afraid to show their true selves, too afraid to be vulnerable, too afraid to connect on a deeper level. I've found that this deep presence isn't something she forces. It's a natural result of her inner work, of the way she's learned to connect with herself first, to listen to her own heart, to trust her own intuition, to be at peace with her own silence. And because she's so grounded in who she is, she can offer that same grounding to others, creating bonds that feel real, that feel transformative, bonds that leave a lasting imprint. Because she's not just passing through your life, she's touching your soul, showing you what it means to truly connect, to truly be present, to truly be seen in a way that changes you forever. This deep, soul-touching presence naturally leads to two more traits that make a woman unforgettable. She lives with a freedom that defies societal molds, and she commits to continuous growth, evolving without losing her essence, becoming a woman whose depth and authenticity inspire everyone around her. I've seen this in so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Women who've lived long enough to see through the expectations society places on us, expectations to be accommodating, to dim our light, to fit into roles that don't reflect who we truly are, roles that tell us to be less passionate, less emotional, less demanding, to shrink ourselves to make others comfortable. But an unforgettable woman breaks free from these constraints. She refuses to be defined by what others expect, choosing instead to live on her own terms with a freedom that's both inspiring and magnetic. A freedom that says, I will not be tamed. I will not be reduced. I will live as the fullest expression of who I am. Carl Jung spoke of the archetype of the wise woman, one who integrates all parts of herself, light and shadow, feminine and masculine. And I've found that this kind of woman doesn't fear her intensity. She doesn't hide her passion, her emotions, or her desires just to make others comfortable. She embraces them because she knows that true strength lies in being fully herself, not a watered-down version designed to please. And that strength, that refusal to conform, makes her presence so powerful because she's not seeking approval, she's seeking truth, her truth, and that resonates with everyone around her, inspiring them to break free from their own constraints, to live more fully in their own authenticity. This freedom doesn't mean she's reckless or selfish. It means she loves, lives, and connects from a place of honesty. She doesn't cling to relationships that don't nourish her. She doesn't stay in spaces where she can't grow. She knows when to let go, when to walk away, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, because she values her energy, her time, her heart, and she won't settle for less than what aligns with her soul. Alongside this freedom, she embodies a commitment to continuous growth, never settling for a static version of herself. Jung called this individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your truest self. And I've seen how an unforgettable woman lives this every day. She's always exploring, always learning, always evolving, whether it's through a new passion that sets her heart on fire, a deeper understanding of her emotions that helps her connect more authentically, or a quiet moment of reflection that reveals a new layer of herself. She grows without betraying who she is. She changes without losing her core. And that balance, that willingness to embrace transformation while staying true to her essence, makes her a woman of depth, a woman who's unpredictable in the best way, not because she's inconsistent, but because she's always becoming more of who she's meant to be. A woman whose journey inspires others to do the same, to keep growing, to keep evolving, to keep seeking their own truth, no matter where life takes them. Living with freedom and a commitment to growth, an unforgettable woman becomes a presence that others can't help but remember, not because she seeks to be, but because her authenticity, her depth, her courage to live fully as herself leave a lasting mark, a mark that inspires us all to embrace our own truth, to live more deeply, more honestly, in a world that often pushes us to be less than we are. I've spent years helping women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond uncover their own unforgettable essence. And I've seen how these 7 paradoxical traits, inspired by Carl Jung's wisdom, can transform the way you show up in the world. Not by trying to be someone else, but by embracing who you've always been beneath the mask society has placed on you. Masks that might have kept you safe, but also kept you small. Masks that told you to hide your intensity, to soften your edges, to fit into roles that don't reflect the vastness of who you are. But when you let those masks fall, when you step into your truth, you become a woman whose presence is felt, whose energy is magnetic, whose impact is profound. We've explored how authenticity sets the foundation, how confidence from within radiates a quiet strength, how embracing your shadow fuels growth, how loving from freedom creates deep connections, how a soulful presence touches others, and how living free from societal molds while continuously evolving makes you a woman of endless depth, a woman who's not trying to be unforgettable, but simply is, because she's chosen to live with truth, with courage, with a love for herself that doesn't depend on anyone else, a love that says, I am whole, I am enough, and I will live as the fullest expression of who I am, no matter what the world expects. Jung taught us that true relationships are between souls, not masks. And I've found that when you live this way, you become a mirror for others, showing them what it means to be real, to be whole, to be free, to love without fear, to grow without shame, to exist without apology. And that's a gift that lingers long after you've left the room, a gift that inspires others to seek the same authenticity within themselves, to peel back their own masks, to embrace their own shadows, to live with the same courage and depth that you've shown them. So I invite you to reflect. Which of these traits resonates with you most? Where can you let go of the masks and embrace your true self a little more today? Maybe it's in the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you love, or the way you allow yourself to grow. Because every step you take toward your authentic self is a step toward becoming the unforgettable woman you already are, deep within. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how this journey speaks to you, because this channel isn't just about sharing wisdom. It's about connecting and growing together, about reminding each other of the beauty that lies in our truest selves. If this video touched you, if it reminded you of the unforgettable woman you're meant to be, please give it a like, subscribe to Ageless Philosophies, and share it with someone who inspires you to be your truest self, someone who reminds you of the power of authenticity, the strength of self-love, the freedom of living fully as you are. Here's to a life where you live without apology, where you love with freedom, where you grow with courage, and where you become a presence that leaves a mark, not because you tried, but because you dared to be you, fully, deeply, beautifully you, a woman whose light shines so brightly, whose truth resonates so deeply that the world can't help but remember you, a woman who's truly unforgettable.